welcome back to the Esports Central Podcast. We're here for episode number 14, and this one I am super excited about. We got an all-star guest, Rainbow Six caster Jess the GOAT, shoutcaster of the year, just all-around awesome person is in the building. Jess, how you doing?
You know, no one's ever introduced me as nice as you've just introduced me, so I'm feeling very flattered, and I'm very, I'm very humbled to be here. So thank you for having me.
I pride myself on my hype man abilities. Thank you for being here. I had even my mentor Action Slacks on the podcast once, and he came through, and I hyped him up too. But I think Slacks, don't think you're as important as Jess. Know where you are on the pecking order. I'm just kidding.
Oh no, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to pretend like, I am here out of my own complete choice because I love the South African community, number one. And number two, you were very polite to me when you reached out to me. So, of course.
Had to be. South African community, they love that kind of stuff. So when you say you like them, they hear. South Africa and Australia also have very weird ties together because whenever people are like, I'm leaving South Africa, they always move to Australia. So it's like a joke, whenever something's going wrong in SA, it's like, we're going to Australia now,
That's good. That's what I want to hear, you know what I mean? We're multicultural here. And when I say I'm like Australian, I'm like, yeah, but Australia doesn't really have an identity because we have like 100 other cultures in our country. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm Australian because I'm from Australia. I was born in Australia, but we don't really have a culture. So I tell you what, I've heard a billion accents. Yours is one of my favorite, but don't tell all of my colleagues from Europe and stuff like that because they like to think they have the best accents. But let's be honest.
The Brits are the worst with that. The English accent, they think they're so fancy and whatever. It's like, you know what, man? We all speak your language. We adopted it. We improved it. Your guys is version 1. We are like version 3,
Boom.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. So, it's funny. I didn't know a lot about the Rainbow Six world, admittedly. I come from a Dota background. All we know is Dota, 4 a.m. We sitting there grinding like, demons in the morning. That's all we know, literally. But obviously, I have run into you now, and I'm very happy to have done so. And because I didn't know a lot about you prior to this podcast and we speaking and things, I was like, okay, let me go do my research. Let's go find out who this person is. Then as I was doing that, I was listening to, I think I haven't podcast. I can't remember what episode it was specifically. And obviously, it's a Rainbow Six podcast. I couldn't have been that bothered about it, right? But there were certain sections where you weren't talking about Rainbow Six and you were just talking. And after about listening 25 minutes, I was like, damn, this person is really cool. Because usually when I chat to esports talent, it's always a thing of like, these are the good talkers, they're top of the industry. But you get those esports talent who really take themselves a little too seriously. But you weren't one of those people I found from that. So immediately I was a fan. How did you get to that sort of, thinking where, I'm here talking about games. I'm not the most serious person in the world. I just do what I do. How did you get to that sort of mentality?
Because when I'm speaking about gaming, it's not that I think gaming is less than other things I've done in my life. That's not sort of how I want people to take this answer. It's more that I came into esports after being a criminologist. I was working in a university and everything. And so when I moved from the university over to Germany to be a professional coach, I wouldn't say I thought of it as a step down. I just knew for a fact that I was going into a less qualified position, one that I, didn't need all of my qualifications for, and one that, I just had done outside of a hobby. I've been playing competitively, etc. And I moved into this role as a result of what I did on the side. And so for me, it did start off feeling like a little bit of a hobby. And when you live in Australia, you don't know that this is a big thing overseas, right? Like you don't know there's so much money in it. So you kind of just go, okay, like it's a hobby. So for me, maybe I got lucky because I came into esports knowing that there's a whole other world out there and having experienced the other world out there, especially on a professional and expert level. And then to come into esports, I was like, well, yeah, like I'm going to treat it like a proper job because that's what it is. But I guess maybe knowing that I have that other background to fall back on, I don't have to go into esports being the best of the best. I try my best, but if it doesn't work out, that's okay because I'm a qualified person over here. And maybe that makes me feel a little bit more casual. Maybe I'm a little bit more confident because of that. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might get into trouble saying this, but I really like that perspective of you where you've come from, again, you've succeeded in another field. I mean, you came from an academic background, you've done a lot there, and then you came into esports and gaming afterwards, because I feel like a lot of the, complexes and issues that I have in gaming really come from people who, it feels like a lot of people in the gaming industry still have that chip on their shoulder where, gaming is like, like a nerdy thing or whatever, and they haven't really gotten over that. Even though they're at the top of the field and succeeding, they still always feel like, oh, there's something I need to prove here. Gaming is legit. Esports is better than the NBA. Where it's like,
Yeah.
you can just chill. It's all alright. We accept you for who you are. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But like you
Yeah.
say, oh, sorry. You want to go there?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd actually never thought about it like that. And I think it's probably something really important to bring up to people is that esports is a legitimate industry because we're almost $1 billion industry. You don't need to prove it to people. The statistics are there. The money already exists. It's not fake money. It literally exists. I would know. I've profited greatly from esports, so I know it's a legitimate industry. So don't. Yeah, I feel like if people are sitting there going, "Oh, well, I have to prove to my parents and this," well, don't just go out and get that bag. Go out and get that money, bro. Like, you don't have to prove to anyone but yourself. So yeah, that's a good one.
All right. You'd love to see that. I really liked from your answer and just from doing some research on you. I actually did research for this podcast. I betrayed my own values here. I'm kidding. You have an extensive history, obviously, in Rainbow Six and now in your career so far. Like you say, you're casting Valorant and things as well, as we were talking about before. So you started off, obviously now you're a hotshot broadcast talent, caster of the year. Just putting that out there again, but you started off as, obviously you were a player, then you were a coach. So how did you make the sort of career progression?
Starting as a player was definitely a hobby for me. Not that I never didn't take it seriously. In fact, in some points, I probably took it too seriously. You spoke about chip on your shoulder. I probably was quite hardcore as a player and as a captain of my team at the time. So sorry to all the players that back then maybe I was really hardcore. But I was in the army part time, and maybe I had a mixture of, well, I only have this much time in my day, and if we're going to practice in this much time of my day, I want it to be done right. So I was quite serious about my time. And so, yeah, I was a Call of Duty player on PlayStation for years before I moved over to Siege. When I moved over to Siege, I realized you couldn't play it competitively on console, so you had to move to PC. So that natural progression came within 6 months, and had to give up all the friends and the teammates and move to PC and start again. And then I started again on PC, and yeah, I loved it naturally. I knew I would. I don't sort of commit to things unless I'm pretty sure it's going to be something I enjoy. And then started playing competitively. Um, it wasn't until my teammates sat me down one day. Mind you, I owned the team. I was the captain of the team, and we just qualified for Challenger League, which is semi-professional league. I was one of the first women to do so, and I was like, let's go. Like, I don't really care about the whole gender thing. A lot of people like to turn around and discuss that with me. I didn't care. I was just like, yeah, man, I did it. I hit Challenger League. I couldn't care if I was an alien or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I did. I don't care. And my team sat me down. They go, well, we've qualified for Challenge League, and you are finishing your masters. You're teaching at a university. You run your own business, and you're trying to be a player. There's really not enough time for you to practice as much as we want to practice. And they slowly tried to tell me that I didn't have enough time in my day to commit to the team, so they needed me to replace myself essentially in my own team, etc. And the way they did it was the right thing to do, because for the team they needed someone who could practice. That's the truth. I didn't have the time. And I sat back and I went, you guys are so right. Like, I'm selfish. I'm taking away practice time from the team. We've all just qualified for Challenger League. I love the game, but I don't have the time. That's the truth. So I replaced myself with another woman, actually, that I knew in the scene. I don't know if that was a subconscious thing. I was like, yo, I want another woman to take my spot, or whether it was just like, I seen her play good. She's not on a team. Let's force her into ours, and that happened. And the Challenger League season didn't go too well for the team, but it doesn't matter because you're still semi-professional, You come last in semi-professional, you're still better than all the non-semi-professional teams 100%. Out there, so whatever. And so I was thinking about what I was going to do at that time. I was finishing my master's degree. I was getting pretty serious at the university. And I think it was that getting serious at the university that scared me a little, because I hadn't traveled. Well, when I say I haven't traveled, I hadn't learnt enough languages, I believe, to like warrant, being serious in my career yet. I had all these goals that I wanted to achieve before I was like really hardcore in my career. And so this story sounds so stupid. I saw a Twitter post from Penta on my timeline, and they were looking for an analyst. And I know they're based in Germany.
Right.
You follow professional esports. And I was like, whatever, I'll apply for it. Like, I want to move overseas and learn a language anyway. So like, I'll apply for it. A week later, I'm in a trial. And I figure they run a trial with a lot of different people naturally. So I'm in a trial and I go and the moment I find out about the trial, in 3 hours, I've written a 3,000 word counter analysis of another team for them. It's all laid out perfectly. I mean, for me, that was easy.
Right.
I was in the end of my master's degree. I mean, writing at that point is just like you're a robot at that point. You know how to do it. So I was like, got it all done, said to them, and I was like, all right, I'm probably up against some big shot names or whatever. Then I would say 24 hours later, I was asked to do another one of them for another team. And I was like, oh, this is getting a little serious now because like, that's the second kind of step. And so I did another one and I was reaching those excitement levels. You try not to expect anything, but and then within 24 hours of that, I was in a TeamSpeak meeting with the entire team. I'm talking, little fish Jess Goat, who wasn't even known as Jess Goat then, little Jess, in a TeamSpeak with professional players in one of the biggest organizations in the game. And I'm sitting there going, what have I done? How did this happen? And I'm like trying to be serious in this meeting, which I'm very aware is quite difficult because I'm realizing the severity of the meeting very quickly. And they said, well, when can you move? And I was like, I guess soon. Like, I mean, I don't know, I guess soon. And like, I'm like thinking of like, okay, I've got to tell the university I'm not going to continue. I run a business, so I have to put a stall on the business. I have to move to Germany. I have to learn some German before I move to Germany. And I'm like trying to run all these things through my head to work out what I'm going to do. And in the end, I mean, I'm very lucky. I've traveled a lot in my life and my father is a huge traveler himself. And I spoke to him about it and he goes, Jess, you'll have your degrees forever. You should go, and then when you're done, you'll have your degrees when you get back. He goes, you should go and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, yeah, sounds like a plan. So I was like, off I go, pack my suitcase and my life just kind of and hasn't stopped. And the rocket ship's like cryptocurrency. It just never ends. It just to the moon, baby,
Listen, I'm betting on the cryptos to fail, so don't say that about your career. Your story ain't stopping. That's a wonderful story, actually. I do have one question I have to ask that precedes even you telling that story. So seeing as you started off in Call of Duty, did you tell any kids that you're going to F their mothers?
I still tell kids I'm going to F their mothers. So I feel I've never dropped it. So yeah, maybe I've always been that little toxic. Mind you, I wasn't like the Modern Warfare toxic. I was part of the Black Ops 1 and 2 community. So I kind of was like part of the toxic community, but I never went Modern Warfare hardcore. But yes, if your mum's hot, watch out.
I don't know why I said F and not fuck because like I'm so rude on this podcast in general and I usually try to encourage my guests.
Are you good?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
well, I'm
yeah.
Australian, so
yeah, exactly.
Natural.
Exactly. That is such a crazy career progression.
Right.
It's an inspiring story in a way. It really is, especially like you don't see yourself in this position. Like, oh, but I'm actually I'm doing it. It's crazy. And obviously now again we find yourself in the analyst desk and stuff. Being a caster, doing all these different broadcast roles. And I think one thing, like I said when I was listening to the Hamid podcast, that I really liked about you is that. For me, I think the most important thing of doing any broadcast work, TV work, just any working in broadcasting and talking to other fucking people, the main thing to be able to succeed is just to be able to be critical about yourself. Know where you are, know what's wrong, try to improve that's better. Like, see what's better, like how you can make it better, right? It's always like you're never fucking satisfied with a broadcast, right? And then I was listening to you on the Hamid podcast, you were talking to the guys and you're like, you had a similar mentality that a lot of people had, it has to be like this, got to know about the game. You're talking about Veli joining the broadcast and things, but when you took a step back and you look at it, it's like you look at these panels and you look at this kind of thing and it's like fucking boring. And I found that very interesting because I have like similar thoughts on like the Dota panels and stuff that I watch. Is like there's no creativity. It's the same thing we're seeing all the time. So how did you kind of get to that stage where you could look and be like, you know what, fuck this, we need to do better?
I think the moment I went from coaching, which I was very confident in, not only my psychological background, but my leadership background in army work and stuff like that, and my game knowledge, I think I came into coaching going, I know my shit, which was fair enough. I was qualified for my position, and nowadays I'm even more qualified. If I was to go back into coaching, I would ask $1 billion amount of money, which is why I would probably never go back into coaching. But when I went into talent work, I will be the first person to tell someone I'm not qualified for something. If someone said to me, I want you to do this, or I want you to have a comment on this, probably even a better example is if someone said to me, I want you to have a comment on this, and I wasn't trained, qualified, or experienced in it, I would be the first motherfucker to turn around and go, hold up. You want my opinion on this thing that I don't know about? And I hate people who have opinions on things that they don't know about. That's inappropriate. I don't know how people thought that was okay. It's like someone says to me, oh, such and such is looking after a child this way. Okay, firstly, the only thing I know about children is the fact that in my criminological master's degree, I specialize in pedophilia. Like, if there's a crime happening to the child, maybe I can talk about that. But I can't talk about how to raise the child. I've never raised my own child. I've never studied children's studies, and I've never helped raise a child as part of my own family. You know what I mean?
It's like having a goldfish. That's too much responsibility. Don't fucking talk to me about kids yet.
Don't talk to me about raising a friggin' dog. I didn't have a dog growing up. You know what I mean? Like, don't ask me these things. So talent work was very much that. Right. I had to admit that I was not a trained entertainer almost at any point in my life other than streaming. That's self-trained. That's bullshit. Anyone tells you they're a streamer and they could be this? No, that's all self-trained. That's not a legitimate pathway. It can be a link to the pathway, but it's not one I can turn around and go, hey, on my resume, this exists, this, and therefore I'm qualified for this. So I was really, really critical of myself between the bridge of being on the analyst desk to being a caster. Being on the analyst desk, I strongly believe I'm confident at that, but I sound like a robot sometimes. And on the analyst desk, that's you can get away with that a little bit because the analyst desk is the more boring, critical breakdown. Yeah. So I got away with being robot Jess for a while. As a caster, you can't do that shit. That is boring as hell. You are an entertainer. They're paying you to get people to listen and enjoy, and you've got to know the game because, you've got to understand the words that you're saying and say them confidently, right? And mix it in with some entertainment. For me, very quickly, I had to raise my hand and go, you're hiring me to be a host, caster, and analyst. Right. There's one thing on there I'm confident of being. That's an analyst. The other two, I'm not. And I'm going to be honest from the very get-go. I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, I know how to do that so that I can keep my job. That's a lie. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. And I would hate to say I'm something when someone else is better than me. Let's say for Geo, for example. Right. She was an actual trained caster. She didn't know the game anywhere near as well as me, but she's an actual trained caster. So if I was to compare myself to her, we're on completely different ends of the spectrum. And I have to give her the respect that she is trained in that, and I am not. And so what I did was, between SI 2020, when I actually found out 15 minutes before I was on the grand finals analyst desk that I would get a full-time position, which was the worst time to tell someone exciting information. Right before the grand finals analyst desk, where a reverse sweep from SSG happens and you're excited about 20,000 different things. It's very hard to not speak too fast on camera, or, keep yourself together and keep concentrated. So to the Ubisoft staff member who did that, that was awful. It was hard to keep it together. Thank you.
Ubisoft member, how could you go and give this woman good news? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Better timing in the future. That's all I ask. If you can give me good news, wait. I spent 3 months before the new season was about to start, or the new format, and I spent every week speaking to as many casters as I could. I would ask them for VOD reviews. I practiced my tone. I practiced speech patterns. I practiced inflection of my voice. different ways that I could raise and lower them throughout a sentence, being able to replicate hype. I did everything a human being could do, not to sound like Robot Jess. I did that. And I'd go to bed and I'd sit there, here's my phone, and I'd lay down on the side and I'd watch a game and I'd just mouth over it as if I was casting, and I just mute it and just mouth as if I was casting. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with showing up day one, being able to do at least 50% of the job that I thought I was only 25% capable of.
Right.
I didn't expect myself to go to 100%, but I definitely didn't want to show up and not be able to do the job at tier 1. So that's where my introspection probably came very quickly, is that I put my hand up day one and said, I'm not good at this, but I will put everything into it to be better at it, because this is what you want from me and this is what I want from myself.
Right.
And any caster who does what I did with coaching is go in and think that you probably are already qualified. I would like to think I've learned as an adult, especially in the talent scene, and this has helped me grow as a human being in all areas of life, is that you are never your best. Never. I will never be my best in any area. I don't care. And I always want to think like that. I always want to be that person that's like, I can be 20 times better, even that maybe that's not a possibility, but I want to always think that way. And I never want to get to some of these spots some of these talent are in, where they truly, I think some of these talent truly do think they're almost at their ceiling. I want to never pretend I can see my ceiling or that I've reached it ever. So I will always ask for feedback, always in this job. I think if I ever don't, come over and kick my ass and say, what is wrong with you? You told me 2 years ago that you'll never be your best. I don't care. I could have 100 awards around here and I won't believe a single one of them. I won't.
And it's a weird thing, because as a talent, right, and in some ways you need to, congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back, all those kind of stuff. But it's very hard, like you say, because to be able to do your job at the best, you can never be satisfied, right? You always want to do a better job. You could have hyped this up better. You could have been funnier in this moment. You could have pulled your co-caster in at this time and got him to say this thing, So it is a weird thing, but it's so great to hear you have that mentality, to hear what kind of work you put in, because I think a lot of, in a weird way, I don't really it's gonna sound bad, even though I'm I do broadcast talent and I do cast and podcast, and I don't really respect broadcast work that much. But I also think people don't understand what goes into it to be at the top level, right? There's so much, and the scales differ. They could be two people working in the pro scene, working at the same tournament, getting the same salary, but there's differences at the end of the day. Some people are just really fucking amazing at the job, because again, I'm interested in talent work. I think I'm always I look at these things with a critical eye, not because I'm gonna judge casters or anything like that. I just always trying to learn, and there's a lot of, and you get these I would call them your fucking elite talent, where you look at a guy like Machine as a host, or Shocks, that kind of level is, people don't realize what goes into that shit. And
no, I thought I did. It's funny you speak about Machine, because I'm on the Esports Award panel. I luckily got added last year, and I'm very blessed and humbled to be part of it. And our votes account for a lot of who gets picked for the awards, the Esports Awards. I think it's 15 to 20% community vote, and the rest comes to the panel. And I was one of the biggest advocates for Machine to win last year, purely out of the fact that before I was in talent work, I thought not that he just showed up and spoke on, I don't know how to explain it, right? I think a lot of people think that you just show up and you just naturally are charismatic. You can speak on the mic. And then when I joined talent work and I actually listened to him, he is the perfection that you want. He is what you would idealize if you want to be a good talent. And if you broke down the things he says, how he says it, the technical prowess that he has, I mean, he wasn't born with it. He might have been born charismatic, and he might have a good natural talent, but I'm telling you, the work I put in between SI 2020 and stage 1, and then between stage 1 and stage 2, where I had to change entire duos and take all of the feedback I got in stage 1. I had like 1 or 2 weeks to put it in for stage 2
Right.
before I think I really kicked off as a caster. I mean, I reckon Machine's probably done 100 times that in his career. He's incredible. He's honestly incredible. So, yeah, I will never, ever question talent work again, knowing that people like him exist,
Right.
and knowing that it's not natural talent like it probably looks from the outside. They make it look natural because they're so good.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And like, don't want to turn this into a machine sub podcast, but I completely agree. And like for me,
I know.
it's hard because I also like, obviously I understand a bit of the technical things. I'm not a pro or anything, but like I have to understand the technical things. But with him, it just seems like on another level because obviously he's such a good host, right? But when he fit into that caster role and listening to this guy, I was like, holy fuck, this guy's like one of the best casters I've ever heard. I want him on every fucking game, you know? It's so crazy to like transcend that level. But just in terms of like, just like talking about how deep this broadcast stuff can go, I look at like in the NBA, Rachel Nicholas, who works, like as good as all our esports talent is, still nobody's actually on, like if you look at the next level, on her level, because the amount of roles she has to do, interview, host, content every day, be at the game. And I was just thinking about the amount of work that goes into this is fucking insane. Like to be on everyday television and work so many jobs in like one, it's nuts. Like I actually don't know how somebody can do a job like that. Like it's honestly just crazy.
Yeah, that I was worried when my contract first got sent to me and it said host, caster, analyst. And I went, you are fucking kidding me.
Right.
Like to be a double threat is hard.
Yes.
Caster, analyst, that's hard. You want me to be a triple threat? And I was like, oh, whoa. I like, it's good to have confidence in yourself. I always do. I always tell myself you can learn how to do things if you put the work in. And that's been instilled with me growing up a lot. But you should never have overconfidence. And so I did say to Ubisoft, I said, I'm happy to be contracted as a host, but as a fill-in host. Right. And there were moments throughout the season where I had to fill in for my host, and as did one of my other colleagues who had also done a bit of hosting himself. And that was okay. But if I was to continually undertake that role on consecutive days throughout the month, that's not okay. The level I put up on that day filling in is okay, but it wouldn't be okay on a consecutive basis. And I was very aware of that. So I think it's okay to ask me to learn how to be a pretty okay caster as well as an analyst, because I was already an analyst, but it is not okay for me to turn around and go, oh yeah, I can be a host and a caster and an analyst. No, there's a time you need to stop and go, there's only so many hours in a day. And I only have this much time before the season starts.
Right.
If I spread myself too thin, I'm going to come in being pretty shit at all of them because I tried to do everything. You're trying to put your fingers in every pie, and all of a sudden you don't have enough left to do anything properly. So I'm glad I pulled myself up on that. Yeah. Because I think in the past I probably would have been like, yeah, let's try everything. Yeah. And you're in tier 1, you got no excuse to be shit, unfortunately. Like that's it.
Twitch chat's always watching, you know. Twitch chat's always watching. I'm kidding.
Always listening, always watching, and as they should be. This is the products for them. I used to be one of those Twitch viewers. I want to watch a Siege game. I want to enjoy it. I want to learn something. And I mean, my job doesn't exist without them. I'm thoroughly 100%. Aware. So yeah.
I think like for me, listening to like again, like somebody like listening to pros like you, like a tier 1 talent, or even when I spoke to like Sir Action Slacks, it's always so inspiring because here in South Africa, even though we have an esports industry and stuff, or a scene, I don't know, industry is too big of a word for it. You get caught up. You lose perspective also. Like I think a lot of people at the top end of esports world also lose perspective in is that like you think, okay, no, I'm good, I'm better than this one, but it's fucking irrelevant because then you get to the end of the day, I'm not as good as any tier 1 talent, even close, and they putting in more work. So you can't be in a case of oh no, I should get this opportunity, or I should. It's never about that. It's never about that. And I think this is another question I want to ask, because I think you actually one of the few talent to actually have enough perspective on this. Not all of them like to admit this, but what factor do you think luck plays into, you know, where you found yourself in, especially in broadcast specifically?
I have to think carefully about the words that I say here.
Okay.
Because I don't want to paint it a certain way unnecessarily. I think, and I hope you're okay with me saying it this way because I'm Australian. I'm very brutal with my words sometimes. I think having a vagina helped me a lot. Because in broadcast talent, there were no other vaginas in tier 1. So what were they missing? I mean, let's be honest, right? Siege Esports was a sausage fest. There were no vaginas. Like, I hate to put it that simply, but at a very foundational diversity level, Siege was a sausage fest through and through.
Right.
And I had made it a point to say, well, not only do I have a vagina, but I have a big brain full of Siege knowledge. And if you put me in with you guys, it won't make you seem like you're doing a diversity hire because I know more than what my co-casters say. So I can't be a diversity hire because I already know more than my duo is saying, and I know more than the other duos saying. And the only person that probably knows more than me is Kix and Intero, and they're already the best in the scene. So you get a good brain, and you get a vagina, and you get diversity. Ta-da! Easy, right? So I think that's luck on both ends. Luck for me on timing. No other woman had come in and gone, I want in and I'm good to go in.
Right.
So I was luck on the timing because I came in early. I came in early and I said, you got this problem of this sausage fest and I'm going to fix it.
Okay.
And if you've got a spot and you think I can fix it, because I did, I contacted Ubisoft. I was networking through coaching, professional coaching, etc. And I said, if you have a spot and you want to get me involved on a more regular basis, and this was more about the analyst desk at the time, naturally, then let me know because I'm going to be finished with the Italian team I was working with. Fortunately, Italy's quite far behind progressively, so esports isn't even a job, a recognized job visa-wise there, so I couldn't continue my visa. And I said to them, well, I'd like to stay in esports, and I really do think I can be quite a good asset to you, Ubisoft. You come back to me. If you've got a spot, let me know. If not, no problems. I'll go back to criminology. That was it. And the timing of that and my confidence to speak out, is that mixed with luck? Sure, absolutely. It's luck of the timing. The rest of it wasn't luck, though.
Right.
I didn't sit there and wait for someone to knock on my door. I came to their door and I bashed it down and I said, you have a sausage fest problem and I can fix it. So if you want that, give it to me. And then I walked out the door and they, waited a bit and went, actually, she kind of right. So I guess we'll go back and speak to her. And that's the luck of the timing. Yes, I will say a lot of talent will have timing luck.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of other areas are luck, as I've come to learn over time. Because people who get maybe a position via luck soon become very unlucky and lose that position quickly. And you'll see the introduction and then the loss of that position very quickly because they weren't able to maintain. So that I think that's the worst outcome. Is if you were to get added to a talent team through maybe a bit of luck, everything's a little bit of luck, of course, but through maybe more luck than usual, and then you were to get removed, that would be the worst outcome, I think. I would rather have not had it to begin with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That would be, I feel for talent that have gone through that, who will go through that, because
I've actually seen...
I think that would convert.
Yeah, I've seen that happen to talent before. Like in the Dota world, the reason I ask about the luck thing, I'll further clarify a bit as well, is that basically the way you make it is, if you're obviously the tier 1 casters all work the big events, the LANs, the things and whatever, and they're the best in the talent and they do that. And then your tier 2 casters grind these online games, these qualifiers, all these kind of stuff. And maybe one day somebody makes a Reddit thread about you, and then a tournament organizer looks at it and they're like, okay, there's a new guy coming up, Reddit likes him, and we can underpay him, so let's put him in a broadcast. And they work 1 or 2 events and then they're gone. Like, not all of them. I mean, but yeah. So it is rough. You know it's true. You're a pro.
I know, and it's so funny that you say that because and I know for a fact my colleagues won't mind me saying this because
Right.
I don't lie, I don't bullshit. I am the last person to lie on this earth. If it's confidential, of course I'll keep it confidential. But some of my colleagues, especially who over the years, I'm talking not just now colleagues, oh my
Right.
God, but over the years, have come in and taken far less money because they're too pussy to say that they're worth something. They just want that position no matter what. That's the truth.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's the tier 2 talent that come in and go, oh my God, I've just hit my big break. In fact, I will pay you to give me that
Exactly.
position rather than you pay me. Whereas I'm more like, you're using my time, give me money. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? Like,
I mean, in a way, it's
the
not their
truth,
fault,
so-
right? Like, because the esports, in a way, is kind of feast or famine, right? Where's your opportunity going to come as a
Oh,
tier 2
yeah.
talent? But it's fucking unethical practices from the TOs, of course. But yeah, that's a whole other
Right.
can of worms here in esports. But the reason I asked you that question about luck, and I asked you at this time in this interview, is that I feel like people need to understand, like, especially a broadcast talent themselves need to understand this. I'm not trying to mansplain to people above me, but at the same time, fucking accept this, is that with all that work, right, people need to understand from the outside how much goes into being a tier 1 talent. But at the same time, they have to understand in broadcasting, especially if you want to be a broadcaster, young kids out there who want to be the next fucking Jess Goat, you need to understand that your situation is not up to you. Everything you do in the bigger picture of things is you can't fucking get hired for. If you're gonna get that Reddit thread, if you're gonna get a spot where this talent is gonna get caught for some shit and they get X from the broadcaster, there's a new spot. It's luck. So you have to, like, both these things are super important. So I think it's important to keep like my theory is that it's important to keep perspective that a lot of it is out of your control. But because a lot of it is out of your control, that you do the process anyway, because that's what's fucking important, right? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think to add on to your point as well, for anyone who's sort of thinking about it, is my best example of what you've just said is one of my newer colleagues, Fluke. She has been one of my favorite play-by-play casters in the tier 3, tier 2 scene for a very long time. And I've had the pleasure of bringing her in on a couple of duo casts with me. And I have said for a very long time, even though people have disagreed with me in conversations, and I couldn't care less who disagrees with me. Some people like to agree with people because socially that's a thing. I couldn't care less. If you disagree with me, yeah, that's fucking on you. I don't care. But I would tell everyone, I think Fluke is one of the best play-by-plays. I think she's great. I think, with a little bit of polishing here, play-by-play wise, I think I tell her, I think she's a really fucking bad analyst. I wouldn't put her like back on the LSS, like, and she would say the same to me with my play-by-play, right? I'm not a play-by-play fucking caster. That's it.
Right.
She's good with her words, but if I asked her to break something down on the analyst desk, oh shit, like, you know what I mean? So I was very clear. I was like, she's one of the best play-by-plays, and that's probably because she focuses the fuck out of know what she says. And people were like, oh, yeah, no, it's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't care what you think. Like, this is what I've broken down. I really think she needs to be.
Right.
And when she wasn't included in the first batch of stage 1 talent, and other people were, who maybe in my mind, I was a bit more biased towards her because I'd watched more of her stuff. And I thought she had, done a lot of tier 2. And the next progression for her should have been tier 1. I made a comment to Ubisoft. I said, I have no idea why Fluke is not here. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then when we got to stage 2 and we had to make talent changes anyway, I said, yeah, Fluke. Fluke, right? Like, because like there's like, if you don't get Fluke, then like you're a fucking clown.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to tell you how to do your job, tournament organizers, but like, if you don't get Fluke. And so when you're talking about luck, I think the fact that Fluke was always willing to work with me, I wouldn't say like suck up to people, because I don't think she ever did that with me. But she was always respectful. She was always open to jumping into different gigs with me. Always worked those gigs like they were tier 1 gigs, which I very much respected because I give all the same respect to all the work that I do. It's luck that she got some of those gigs because it was a timing thing for me. I didn't have any other duo at the time, so I got to pick whoever. but it's not luck that she proved herself to me and I was the one behind the scenes. And I'm sure maybe some of my other colleagues also spoke about her. But we were the ones in the background, and I was the one in the background going, get Fluke, get Fluke, get Fluke. If I wasn't the one saying that, does she get it? I don't know. I would like to think yes, because it wouldn't. Her skills should speak for themselves, but not always. Networking will trump so many other things in this industry, and I've come to learn that so fucking quickly, is that you don't have to suck up to someone, but you damn better be aware of how you look in someone's eyes.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden, you won't get that gig, and you'll think it's luck, and you'll think it's luck that this other mother effer got the job and you didn't. But it came down to the fact that Bobby Jim down the back room of production didn't like one of the things you said on Twitter one time and said, I don't really like them. Maybe we should get this person. That's all it was. That's not luck. That's some shit you did, or that's some shit you didn't do. And you don't know how all these butterfly effects work. And I think over the past year and a half, like literally since like I got back from SI 2020 and I worked that, I changed my persona like 20-fold. I'm a pretty honest Australian, but I think I used to be brutal about it. I don't think I used to care about how people's feelings were when I said the truth. Nowadays, I'm thinking about everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about everyone's feelings. I'm thinking about, like if someone has a success and I don't even know them on Twitter, I'll like their fucking tweet and I'll be like, yo, like, well done. But I don't even know who the fuck they are. But one day down the track, they might comment on my tweet and go, hey, congratulations, hope to work with you one day. And that one tiny Twitter encounter means I get a $10,000 gig a year and a half from now.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea. The things that I've gotten, like Red Bull UK, through one network contact, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it feels like luck from the outside.
Yeah. But
the networking I've done and the personality and persona change that I've gone through to achieve a much better networking space, that's not luck. That's fucking grind.
Right.
Yeah, that's grind inside and out. Yeah, so it's hard. I like your point to a degree, because timing is very much luck based. I do think that for sure. But if you're smart building the foundation upon which luck grows off of, luck will grow out of really good soil.
Yeah.
It won't if your soil's shit. So that's the truth.
So I think the funnier part about this, I 115% agree with you on this network thing. But I think this is something, in my experience, that I've seen a lot of people are very touchy about. Nobody ever wants to say they got a job because they knew the guy. Nobody ever wants to say that. But that's the fucking reality.
No, it was my skill.
Exactly.
Shut the fuck up.
Especially
Shut the fuck up, man. You're lying.
Especially in talent work. It's like, no, your network is king. Your network is 100% king. And like you say, it ain't luck, right? I'm sitting here tweeting about fucking Barclays Premier League shit, and that one tournament organizer and that esports person who used to follow me is tired because he's sick of seeing these fucking football tweets. He's gonna unfollow me. That was a decision I made about my personal brand. It was more important for me to tweet about some fucking football game than to keep this guy's relationship or to keep these fucking esports people that followed me entertained or whatever. That's fine. It's a decision I make, but it is very important because, like you say, at the end of the day, your network is king. It's like people don't understand that it makes up it makes up so much of what happens. I mean, I know like in Dota, the stories about guys who went to like the international and things, and they literally, the guy's one goal was to go to every single tournament organizer and ask them if they can cast their qualifiers, and lo and behold, the next fucking season, this guy was casting all the qualifiers. Like, good for him. Good for him. It's hustle, you know?
Well done. He was hustling.
Yeah.
He was aggressively hustling, but he was hustling. For me, like, I think it's important to find a balance, right?
Yes.
Like, if someone came to me and was like, well, I've had people DM me and they've been really forthright. Look, you don't need to butter me up. I'm like a straightforward person. You don't need to be like, hey, how are you? What's going on? Like, get to the point, right? Like
exactly.
If you've got a point, get to it, kind of thing.
Right.
But there's some people who are so just like straight to the point, and they've never tried to engage with you on any other time. They've just gone, if you need a co-caster in the future, you let me know. And I'm kind of like, I don't even know who the fuck you are.
Dude.
Like, there's networking, like there's hustling and networking, and you need to find the balance. But if you just go straight to the hustle and you get rid of the fact that I'm a
Yeah.
human being in between
Right.
all of that, then you're probably not going to do too well. So try and find a nice balance
Right.
as best you can.
Because
Some
sometimes it
people,
can be
some other
shameless,
people
right?
like to be buttered. That's the word for it. I'm glad you gave the word I was looking
There
for.
was-
Shameless is how I've had people come to me
Oh,
as.
man. There was a situation here with a South African talent once where I don't, that that League of Legends caster, what's his name, man? I think Quick Shot or something like that. He's a South African.
Quick Shot, okay,
yeah. He's a South African talent.
Is Quickshot out? Is
Yeah,
he?
he comes from South Africa, but so like South Africans do
Okay.
this thing where they love like anybody who has fucking some resemblance of South African. They like, this guy's South African for life. He's our hero, whatever. And it's such a weird thing. So it was a case of like, I don't know, he made some post or whatever, and all these like South African talent are going talking, yeah, we're so proud of you, South African, whatever. But then understanding this guy fucking hated South Africa when he was here. I think his family got like, there was crime or something. He's like, fuck this, I'm out, I'm done with this country. So it's like, you're buttering this guy up now about this shit, and it like, he doesn't like South Africa. Why do you guys even fucking call him South Africa still? Like another perfect example here in SA. He's like fucking Elon Musk, right? His family and stuff, they were staying here during like the fucking apartheid regime. They owned like mines and shit. The minute that shit ended, they were gone. They left the country. You know exactly what him and his family, like his family's position was. But now you guys all talk about him. Yeah, Elon Musk is from South Africa. We're so proud of him. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, come on.
It's funny you bring that up because that's exactly how I am now with Australia. And I said from the beginning I was proud to be Australian because I am. I'm proud. My country holds a lot of progressive values, and I very much align with that shit. Especially healthcare, social. Like it's great. Multiculturalism. I'm all about that shit. But when it comes to the Siege scene, I will say it night and day. We have the most toxic and embarrassing scene that exists in the world for Rainbow Six Siege. And people are like, oh, why would you talk shit about you? Like, yo, shit, you want me to like lie about how shit our community is? Like, my bad, bro. Like, I would love to be proud of my community, go around and go, yeah, we have the best Siege scene in the fucking world, but we don't. We literally are on the bottom of the leaderboard, bro. Like, that's embarrassing, man. So I'm embarrassed to call myself Australian, like, in the Siege scene. And people are like, oh, yeah, well, you're not a real Australian. I'm like, if that makes me not a real Australian because I want to hold my community to, like, a standard and not be embarrassed when I stream in my region, then, all right, shit, fuck me. All right, I'm not from Australia. I'm from Europe. Like, Europe claims me now because I work from Europe. Like, no problems. Like, that was so strange to me because the moment I moved from Australia to Germany, it's like I wasn't Australian anymore.
Right.
It's like they were just like, oh, you're not Australian anymore. And it's kind of like the opposite of the South African thing, right? Where I was kind of like, oh, I came from the scene. The scene, made me who I was. So I'm still very much Australian. I just live overseas and work overseas. So it's so strange to me how some communities and some regions, they'll grab onto something. And when I was at SI 2020 the year before that, when I was a coach at SI 2019, I had like Australian magazines reaching out to me going, oh my God, please do an interview with me. And I was like, you only give a fuck now that I'm at the World Championships. Y'all don't give a fuck in between any of these times. In fact, y'all the fucking never contact me for anything else or help me or involve me in anything. You just want me now because I help you get a story. I'm like, I see you. I see your shit. I see straight through it. So there are a lot of like really slimy people when it comes to regions-based stuff. And I'm sure it happens in South Africa all the fucking time, right? Like where people are like, you're South African, so you need to do this or vice versa, right? I think that whole region-based stuff is probably like the worst part about it is the moment you go international, it's like you don't fit anywhere.
Right.
Like you it's like you're just owned by the world now. Yep. And I hope in South Africa that like it keeps the way that it is. Like people are proud, that someone comes from their region. They don't just like, oh, you're gone now. You know what I mean? I wish I had that in Australia, but
all right.
Nah, man. I was like outcast, bro. So
that's wild.
South Africa's doing it good. You guys are doing it good. You got to be proud of the people that shot out from your region and did good things.
No, but we also have a similarity like you, where again South Africa and Australia are kind of similar, especially in esports. because we're like both at the bottom of the fucking world, right? Completely isolated,
Yeah.
not the biggest scene ever. I think Australia is one of the few, I've actually been there before, the few countries where the
Yeah.
internet is as fucking trash as here in South Africa. Like, it's just not that great. It's fucking
bad.
expensive. So it's so
Yep.
the comparisons are the same way. It's like, you know, we have this esports scene and stuff, but like, you know, in Dota is a lovely game. I fucking love it because you have your MMR, your number is dead accurate. Like, if you 5,500 skill points, that is where you at. There's no discussions or
Okay.
talks or whatever about where you could be higher, whatever. Sure, there's ping and things here, but we can adjust for that even. So when guys are just having like, you know, they think they this, and you have to talk good about us because we the pros here and stuff. It's like, no, bro, shut the fuck up. You nobody. You're not even tier 4 in EU. Just like calm down. Like, know where you at. Know where you at. You know?
Oh shit. Oh shit. I'm not going to say anything because I have a sneaky suspicion that a lot of the competitive community in Australia doesn't like me because I've called them out before on their shitty
sure.
behavior. So if I do call out the tier 2 scene in Australia being like tier 4 overseas, they're going to be like, fuck you, what do you know? And I'll be like,
exactly. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So now, on the topic of, you know, Australia being toxic in oceanic region, you know, your recent, obviously the reason I contacted you for the video, again, I didn't know Rainbow Six and stuff, and I as we're talking prior to this video, I heard there's lots of people have contacted you since this. There was a video you made that was on the timeline about the reason you stopped streaming and such because of the endless harassment, griefing, game ruining, and such you experienced just because you are a female and have been famous in the Rainbow Six Siege or whatever be the case. And I'm kind of conflicted talking to you about this and asking you about this stuff because obviously when I was doing my research, it was a case of where, like, obviously initially I was like, so, like, I was freaking, like, I was like, holy shit, this is so bad, we need to talk about this, we need to get awareness and things. But then I was like, as obviously it took like a week or so, 2 weeks to get here, I was like, you know, I was looking at your Twitter and stuff, and I saw there was a tweet where you like, you know, you're tired of coming on the podcast and like having to be asked, okay, what's your woman's perspective on this and such. And I was like, and I just think about a lot of these podcasts and these interviews, especially when it's like the top woman in the scene, it's always like a responsibility put on you guys where it's like, okay, what's your opinion is how should women be treated? It's like fucking big questions to ask somebody who at the end of the day is just one person, a talent, you know, a thing. So it is a tough conversation yet to be had. I don't know where to go with it completely. So I don't know. What are your thoughts just from the get-go, having processed everything that is going on since the video?
I'm glad you put it that way because I hate talking on behalf of all women. I hate that. I hate that idea that, not that I'm some token woman in the Siege scene. I said before that I'm very aware that there are many areas lacking diversity. And as a result, you kind of have to hold that torch for a lot of women because no one else is there to do that with you. You know, you can't share the load. So I get that that's kind of, you just come with that responsibility and you have to be okay with that. And that's okay. Like women like Shox and Frost and stuff like that in League of Legends, like they're gonna hold that shit for years, man. Like there was no one else to hold that shit. So like I feel for them, and I've definitely felt like I've held a lot of that burden in the Siege scene, for example. But I made that video to just I didn't expect it. One, I didn't expect it to blow up at all. That was not the intention. It was literally so that my goat farm who watches my streams doesn't go, why aren't you streaming? Like that was it. It was literally to go, sorry guys, like as you guys know, I'm getting ripped every day. I'm getting stream sniped, you know, every second game. Like it's unstreamable without me like getting enraged. And that was it. Then I noticed pretty quickly that this tweet was not just gonna sit there. It was gonna fly around a million places, and I was like, oh shit.
You know, after Slasher retweets something. You know, after Slasher retweets something, then it's gonna go viral.
And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, now I need to think critically about what I've said and come up with a strategy for talking about this, because you can't just hide from things. When you say something, you have to take ownership, and I was very aware of that. And I had two ways of going about it. I could either generalize it and talk about experiences of women and other streamers as a whole when we stream Siege, and how the community as a whole is quite awful to deal with, especially in regards to other games. I've been playing other games since that video announcement, and people in Valorant are so fucking nice. Like they're so incredibly nice to me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, like I missed that shot, man. I'm still learning this game. He goes, no problems, no problems. Now, one, I just spoke in voice as a woman. And number two, this dude didn't rip me for fucking losing a round.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm like talking all the time in Valorant now, and I'm like, I'm waiting. I reckon maybe out of the 20 games, like, you know, every few days that I've been playing a Valorant, one of them I will have a bad comment.
Wow.
And it won't even be like that bad. Like it won't even be that bad. So for me, I don't think I realized how bad the Siege team was until people started to kick off about it under the tweet. I got about 130 messages from women and different people in the esports industry on Twitter. Either agreeing or asking if there's anything they could do to help, which I very much appreciate. Thank you guys. All the support was unreal. Since I sort of made the video, I guess, long story short, I have come to realize that it was a lot worse than I think I realized. Especially being able to compare it with other games I've been playing over the past couple of weeks since then. It's actually to the point where I'm not surprised. I would say out of the 127 messages or something I got, I counted in the end, 30 something of them were women who said that they quit Siege completely.
Wow.
North American women, European women, Australian women. And they've gone over to Apex and Valorant, I think was most of the answers that they told me. And I sort of sat there for a while and I went, this is a problem. Like, this is not just like a gaming problem. Like Siege itself has a problem, a really, really deeply embedded problem here. And I started a rampage on Twitter. For that entire week, I was critical in every way, shape, or form about the Siege community that I could be. And I've never really been that way because I don't like to speak ill of Ubisoft because of the contact that I have behind the scenes with them. They work very hard. They work incredibly hard. The developers and the community devs and stuff like that. They've been amazing to me. But I was very aware that you can be nice and not have progress. And that's where I felt we were. And that's where I felt we kind of have been. And I'm very happy to say that I had 3 people in a meeting with me from Ubisoft Australia specifically, because that's probably one of the worst regions to play Siege in and stream it, who sat with me in a call for an hour and 20 minutes and just let me talk. And they wrote everything down, and like that kind of validation, I think, sat with me pretty strongly as to they want to do something. I know they can't do everything. There's only so much they can do, but they want to do something. And that really hit home with me. I will be keen to see how the new season hits and the progression of the reputation system, because they made a big effort of coming to me and saying, this is something we want to work for people like you, because it has to work. So that's probably where I'm at right now. I'm sort of on the fence. I was over the fence. I will say I was over the fence going like, stuff this. Like, honestly, what's the point? And now I've climbed back up on the fence and gone, actually, I can have a better view from up here and I can see both sides a bit clearer.
Okay. That's amazing. It's fucking horrible, but amazing as well. And I kind of like, I had a similar experience. Last year during the peak of like, you know, lockdown, Black Lives Matter and all of that, like I hit kind of a breaking point myself in like where I was in esports. Like I was really mad at that point, and I made like a video where I literally like a 25-30 minute video where I literally like just fucking just went in about all the fucking like racist experiences and shit that was like I've experienced and stuff in esports world. And like at the end of the video I was like, I'm fucking done with this. And I thought I was like, I quit, whatever. But then like after I made that video, it had got quite a lot of traction and stuff for like South African standards and things. And I was like, okay, looking at the reception and things, like, look like people actually want to hear this thing and have like a conversation about this thing. And then since then I've been quite proactive in trying to do my social work around like race, like combating racism and things. Like there's a lot of people who have been more vocal now. I've been interacting with more, like so heavily with like the people of color community and things. But like while I was doing that, I was paying attention to the rest of like the social issues and stuff in the scene. And it's like there's like, obviously because South Africa has such a such a fucking ragged history with like racism and shit because of apartheid and things, and you know, so it is a conversation, even though like there's so much bullshit and there's so much crap with it there still, like endless amount. the reality is at least the conversation is started. People can have the conversation, you know. It's not like, even though people are saying, like, some people are saying the wrong things and being fucking dickheads about shit, at least the conversation can be had. Where I've been noticing a lot in like the gaming scene especially, obviously the systematic issues are there throughout the gaming world with racism, but like in terms of like direct harassment and stuff, I think for me how women are treated in gaming is like, it's much worse in a sense, from my experience at least. And the issue I had was not like, obviously that's the fucking issue, but I think something I noticed that really fucking bothered me is that I feel that the problem is not even like, we can't have a conversation yet in gaming and esports in general, because the problem's not even fucking acknowledged yet, right? Like nobody wants to accept how fucking bad things are. Like, you know, I give a small example, like even when it comes to like, female only tournaments or leagues and things. Like, the reason these things exist is fairly fucking simple. Is that when nobody feels safe playing with, like, women don't feel safe playing games with you, bras. And now, whenever it comes up, it's like, oh yeah, but if you were mixed leagues, bro, you could get better. You're playing it better. Like, but you're not like understanding why this thing is happening in the first place. So don't come and try to have a conversation about it yet. Like, so
they only want to have a conversation when it suits them, and I hate that. I hate people who only interject themselves in a conversation, an idea or a discourse when it's to suit them. When you give them the other side of the discourse, they're out.
Right.
And I hate that, because I have been in esports since 2017 now,
Right.
and since these past few years, there's only been a few times I've really had a good go at the gender issue. Every other time I almost never bring up my gender. In fact, that whole video, I never once mentioned the fact that it was because I'm a woman. I actually think it's more because I'm a bigger figure in the scene.
Okay.
Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. I'm probably flat out fucking wrong. It's probably, let's be honest, it might be because of my gender, and I just refuse to see it, right? Because I don't want that to be the issue. And that might be a comfort thing for me.
Right.
But the few times I brought gender to the forefront, one time was when I told the Yukon desk to add me because there were no dudes ever existing on the desk. I copped it for an entire week on Twitter. I shit you not. The entire Siege scene went at me for a week on Twitter because I suggested a woman be on the desk, aka myself. And people said, you're trying to get on the desk through your gender. Now, that would be okay if I wasn't highly motherfucking qualified at the time. I thought it was very obvious that I was adding the sprinkle on top with the gender thing. It wasn't that I wanted it because I was a woman.
Right.
I thought the woman aspect of it would add the cherry on top of what I already had to offer. I was already, at that exact time, a world championship qualified professional tier 1 coach. I was already that.
Right.
I feel I didn't need to explain that as part of me bringing up the fact that I wanted a woman on the desk. And to have such a backlash about me bringing up being a woman, I reckon I didn't bring up being a woman in regards to anything else for quite a long time after that. There have been moments I've brought it up, received great backlash, gone back into my shell, and then waited to grow that courage back before, okay, I'm gonna talk about the gender issue again. And if someone like me, who generally doesn't give a shit what people think and says what she thinks and is very morally and principally driven, the fact that I have had those moments where I've shut my mouth because I've been scared of consistent backlash goes to show that you can be the strongest woman in the scene and you still won't get around it. I think at some point I have to admit you could be the toughest motherfucker on this earth and it will still affect you. It will still come at you 100 kilometers per hour. And this gender issue is something people don't want to talk about. And when they do want to talk about it, it's to paint a really fucking shit image that is nowhere near the core or the crux of the issue. It's that we should just shut our mouths and accept how it is.
Just mute and move on, bro. Just mute and move on.
Bro.
What's the issue?
What? What do you mean mute, man? I'm going to miss out on 3 calls. But I mean, yeah, but that's the solution. Oh, that's the solution? Oh, shit. Okay, you know what my solution is? I ban all you fuckers. They give me a ban hammer, and I ban every cunt that is, like, out there going, fuck you guys. And I'm like, okay, ban. And then they're never on my team again. That's my solution. Is that okay?
I like
Or
that
would
one
you
more.
prefer the mute? Yeah, see? People don't like it when you give them an alternative option to one that they've always preferred and are comfortable with, because it's never affected them.
Right.
And just because they get to mute Bobby Jim or whatever because they don't like what he's saying, doesn't mean that it doesn't disproportionately affect certain aspects or, parts of the community a lot more.
Right.
I don't know how it is in Dota, but if you do not have a microphone, you do not get a call out from your
Right.
teammate, you will lose your game. That is it.
Like for Dota, you can kind of. I mean, it's a fucking team reliant game. It's a team heavy game, so obviously communication's a big part. But like maybe you could still play the game without communication. Like I play in the dog tier brackets. So anything we say is wrong, anyways. But like I think that mute and move onward, especially when it comes to games like Counter-Strike, like Siege and stuff, it's literally impossible to play without communication. You might as well not do it. Like you just left.
You might as well play casual.
Exactly.
Like,
and I think
what's the point?
I think the gaming world has a massive issue around this because like I don't know if it's like in South Africa, for example, your demographic is very white, very middle class. To just be able to play games, to have a good internet connection, to have a good gaming PC to play, you're coming from a very fucking privileged background already. And these people, like that kind of, I think in the gaming world that can be echoed to many regions and fucking large portions of the community. And I think with that, it's like it's a case of these guys. It's like they just refuse to see any other perspective. You see it in so many aspects across the gaming industry. Just have a fucking woman on a gaming cover, and it's like the fucking world is ending. It's like these things are so fucking irrelevant. Like a lot of the stuff, it doesn't affect you, but you want to have such a strong position and stance on it, right?
That is the worst part of it, is that it doesn't affect them. Women's only leagues don't affect them. A trans woman doesn't affect them. Me being a woman with a higher pitched voice and I have tits and a vagina and I'm still playing the game and giving call outs doesn't affect them. I don't understand at what point in their brain they take a piece of information that has no effect on them, turn it into something in their brain that does somehow affect them, and then act accordingly.
Right.
Where does this disconnect come from? Because when I'm in a lobby and I hear a 12-year-old kid or a 46-year-old male or some 20-year-old chick, none of it matters to me at all, unless they give shit call-outs or they do some dumbass shit in the middle of a round, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, you can't be peeking that randomly. I don't care. You know what? My next door neighbor's dog could be playing. And if he like tried to give me some kind of communication, I'd be happy.
Right.
But somewhere along the line, and this is not just with men, there are some women who do this as well. And they, whether it's to men or trans men or women or whatever it is, they've got this weird bias in their brains. There's this disconnect between going, that person is doing their best to communicate with me. I've got to have a problem with that. It doesn't affect them, but somewhere along the way, it twists into, I've got to have a problem with that.
Right.
And my own education in criminological and psychology and everything like that makes me think that that is attention-based. 9 times out of 10, this comes down to some need for attention, and whether that comes out of performative bullying, if they had no one else listening, would they say that? 9 times out of 10, no, if it's performative bullying. 1 times out of 10, yes.
Yeah.
And those 1 out of 10s are the most dangerous. The performative, not so much, right? Because they're doing it for the benefit of their mates or this or that, and to get a laugh, and hopefully they're seen as the bigger, more powerful person in the lobby. That's all it comes down to. The other people who truly believe what they're saying, they're the dangerous bunch, and 1 out of 10 is very bad.
Yeah.
It's very bad. I mean, that's when it starts going real life shit.
Right.
And I don't think people realize the real threat that does come with that. Like, even to the point where, had SI happened, like if COVID didn't exist and SI happened this year, and it was just like last year's SI where we were all in the arena and I was working it, I would hire one of my friends to be my bodyguard. If it ran this year, I would have walked around with someone. Without a doubt. I would have paid them every day to walk around with me.
And that's fucking insane, right? It's insane, and people.
I'm confident someone would have thrown something at me, said something. I am very confident.
And like, I don't know, like, people listening to this, I don't know how, especially how do you feel about that? Like, I'm open question asking to the people listening, because that should never be the situation at all, right? Like, and I think the problem, I think a lot of the issues, like the issue with this is that when they see, these kind of discussions and stuff being had, and people are like, this is women's issues, they're not understanding, and it's actually the entire scene's issue. Because the effect on this, like you were saying earlier, you have to be the strongest woman or whatever to be, and it still can affect you. Well, if you look at the kind of women in the scene, I mean, this is like, if I look, like most of the women in the scene actually, like Shock's very qualified person, multilingual, it's been working super hard. You a criminologist, fucking Renessa in the Dota world has a fucking couple of PhDs and shit. Usually it is the fucking cream of the crop, like woman being there, because they've worked so hard and they got so resilient to do these great things, and that's the only way they can fucking survive in the gaming scene, right? So how is it equal to you, Joe, what's his face down the road, just playing games in your parents' basement, to like what a woman has to do to make it? And that's like the point. I'm sure a lot of people are listening earlier, like, yeah, bro, this chick is sick. She just got on there because she has a fucking vagina. But you're not listening to other fucking 365 things that she had to deal with to get to this point where she can actually be a part of the community or be a tier 1 person. It's like, it's a complete lack of perspective that people have here.
I don't know. And the fact that's probably the first time I've said out loud that I am afraid of my safety in a big event based off, some of it is my gender. I will say some of it is my gender, linked to the fact that if I say anything in a confident manner, that I'm seen as stuck up and a bitch. And a great example is that we have a player in the Siege scene called Fabian, or Fabian, depending how you pronounce it. And he is known as a bit of a notorious, his persona is to shit talk.
Right.
He calls himself the greatest player in the world, even though, I mean, obviously he's not, but it's the same as me calling myself Jesco, right? It's very satirical. Like, I'm obviously not the greatest in the world, but I love the tag. It's a hilarious sort of,
Michael
addition.
Jordan took that personally.
And I'm sure he did, and I couldn't care less because I'm better than Michael Jordan, right? So Fabian would say that. He'd be like, he would come out seriously and say, I'm better than Michael Jordan. Like, I'm the best in the world, right? And everyone loved this persona and everything. The moment I did anything even remotely close to that persona, I was seen as the bad guy. Like, I even experimented, I would say 3 or 4 times, by repeating tweets almost word for word. I change a few, couple of letters, a couple of conjunctions or things here and there. I would post on my own Twitter and I would compare the comments.
Right.
I shit you not, I was confident almost 9 times out of 10 that even if I said the same thing, I would be the one that would cop shit and people would laugh at their tweet. Even down to the point, and I love Valley. I think he's been a great addition to the Siege scene, etc. There's things he's said on broadcasts and stuff like that, which had I have said it, I would have been decimated. Cancel culture would have flown the fuck on in and I would have been blasted on Twitter yet again.
Right.
What do I think that's down to? I hate to say gender, but what else is there that I do differently or that I am different to other people for me to cop shit at the level that I do? At some point, I have to turn around and admit that the common denominator, if I compare myself to all the other players, and the only difference is that I've got a fucking vagina. That is it. I don't know. I don't know what to do, man, because I've had to clean up some of my persona because people didn't like an outspoken woman. It's shocking.
It's so sad, and what's really fucked up about this is that I'm sure, like, after your video, and like especially after you went viral, you get those people of being like, oh yeah, but they're only saying this for clout and this and that, but they like the context for that video to even exist in the first place is so fucked up. It's on another level. Like, it's just so messed up, and I kind of had got to that same conclusion at some point when I was thinking, like, after the racism stuff I did, I was thinking when I was looking at issues of sexism and stuff, and in my head I was like, if a woman, like, because I'm a fucking, you notice in this podcast, I just say it like how it is. I don't really have tact and shit. I'm a fucking brutal guy. I was fucking antagonistic in that video. I was calling out people by names, swearing motherfuckers. I didn't give a shit, dude. I didn't give a shit. I was candid doesn't even begin to describe like the way I was, especially in the first and the second video as well. But I was like, if a woman had to try and make a same equivalent, there's no way the reception would have been the same. And that's fucked up because the experiences are not very different. And, you know, in some cases, a hell of a lot worse. How, like, what is that?
Yeah, you are, it is the one time I'm confident that if I repeated your version of the video, and your version of the video is valid in every way, shape, or form, right? You have every reason to make a video that way.
Right.
But if I had made my video calling people out by names, or more specifically, if I had have gotten emotional in my video at all, if I had have sworn or got emotional or shown any type of weakness in my video, the reception would have been very different. I was very careful about how I made that video. I recorded it about 6 times because I was very aware I had to be very expressionless.
Right.
I had to use the appropriate body language. I had to stand up with my back straight to seem confident with what I was saying.
Right.
Because the moment you show a little bit of weakness as a woman, that's it. You've lowered the bridge and they'll come storming in. And I'm so aware of it. It makes me so fucking dirty on the inside because I played to that. I played to that in that video. That's probably why I got so much good reception, because I had to play to that.
And that's fucked up, because I think like a lot of times when people be like, oh, you're getting emotional and this and that, that's the fucking point. That's why these things
that's
like
the fucking point. I was mad. I was beyond fucking mad, and you wouldn't have been able to tell in that video. Because I had to keep very cool, calm, collected.
I was surprised.
Seriously.
I was very surprised because I found out about you from that video. So when I saw that, and then again, and I was watching podcasts, and I was looking at your personality and the way you interact and stuff, I was like, oh shit! Like, you know how much work would have had to have gone in to make a video like that, and in that way, it's like you say, it's very fucking deliberate, because any slip up and they fucking at you.
They're fucking at you. It could have just been as simple as a swear word.
Right.
I think that it would have been as simple as a swear word. And someone would have turned around and said, she's being dramatic, or she's over exaggerating, or, you know, there's always those keywords that get linked left, right, and center, and I'm very used to them. It's very deliberate. And when you can't even express your anger or your frustration to its full extent, or even to the 80% extent that you know exists inside you, and you have to make a cool, calm, collected, as if I'm in a courtroom, you know, with all of my actions and words being calculated and watched and forensically analyzed, that's when you know that you're being controlled beyond what you think you're being controlled. I'm very aware in the esports industry. I've had some very bad encounters with men. I'm happy to live tiptoeing a little bit, because it's safer for me this way, both in my professional and private life. And that's what it is for now. I'll keep trying to pave a better path for women, but I'm not going to, you know, decimate myself just to do that. I'm very aware.
This is like something I took a while to realize. Like, I wasn't like quote unquote woke about these issues and stuff either, because like there's another talent in the scene called Tech Girl. She's like probably the biggest talent in South Africa.
Very aware.
Yeah. She's a great talent, and like obviously there's been and initially she used to be quite vocal and stuff about issues and things, but like over time she's really tried to obviously like just function as a brand, in a sense where he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers and things. And like there was points I just like disagreed with her and stuff, and but like when it comes down to it, I actually realized that if because I never understood, even when I saw like shocks in them, like responding to people on Twitter and being like and like getting offended. I was like, but we work in broadcast, people just want to shit on you all the time. Like, I've got people trying to get me fired from my job and stuff. But I one thing I realized about me and Sam, what's different, and this is a crucial fucking difference, is that when I get backlash, that's I'm making videos. I know I'm coming into the fucking arena to fight. You know what I mean? But she actually doesn't have that option. She literally could say or do anything, the most lukewarm fucking shit, and she still gets heaps more flame than people even can realize. And I was like, that ain't fair. Like, everybody should have the fucking right to be like a milquetoast white dude in esports just talking about games, you know?
I have never heard anyone explain it as well as you just explained it. And I'm sort of sub-quoting you here a little bit and not putting it verbatim, but to the effect of, and I hope you allow me to say this one day, whether it's in a tweet or whatever, but I think you sort of said that, you know, we talk about a typical, let's talk about a typical white Anglo-Saxon man who's on the mic, which is 90% of fucking esports talent, maybe more, right? My percentage is probably well off. Sitting behind a mic, they come into work and it's not an arena for them, right? They can enter the arena when they want, usually by choice. Maybe they accidentally slip in and out here and there by not realizing their comment throws them in the middle of the arena. With women, you're in the arena every day. You don't get that choice to step in or out of the arena. You're always in it. And I think that analogy is probably the best analogy that could ever be put with me, because that's how I felt. I felt I'm always fighting. No matter what I'm doing, whether it's work or outside work, social media or networking, it's always felt like an arena battle to me. And I've never, it's like men who can't understand my perspective or what I've been through and my experiences. I can't know what it's like on the other end as well. I can't know how easy or maybe difficult it is for men on the other side of it. But I can say that it has been thoroughly clear to me that many men have expressed to me a lack of arena battles that they've had to go through. And I feel very like there's a lot of disparity between my experiences and their experiences. And I can make a pretty good judgment call that possibly it might be easier on their side and that they've got a greener grass to walk along. So, yeah.
I mean, that what you just said now is a perfect fucking example of this. I had to say that shit. I would not have said it so tactfully. I would have not have explained things, said it so. I would have been like, you fuckers just have no perspective. Y'all don't understand. But I think
can't
to the
say
people,
that. I used to say that.
Yeah.
I used to say that, and you get in trouble. Get in trouble, man. Got to be tactful.
Right. And I think for like the people watching this, I think like you know, we being SJWs and woke and whatever fuck you were saying about us, fair, okay, that's what we're doing here, right? But like literally the only thing that's being asked here, the only thing, and that's what most fucking like public things about social issues is that only thing that's being asked is just look at a different perspective. Like your perspective isn't the only one. That's the only thing. Literally one different thing. Is that too much to ask?
It's hard for people. It's hard for people. And I will give people the benefit of the doubt, because when I was younger, that was absolutely a difficult thing for me to do. I was a privileged white woman growing up in a progressive country with free education and free healthcare. I had a very obvious outlook of how I thought things should be. I thought everyone should know not to say certain slur words. I thought everyone should know to inform themselves before making an opinion. That's a very privileged outlook I got to have because I grew up that way.
Right.
You know, skin color, religion, everything. My parents taught me very clearly that everyone is to practice and be the person that they want to be, and you are to respect that. You know, I was never taught to have bias towards certain skin color or accent or language. Like, for me, that was ridiculous. For other people growing up in the world, and I've come to know very greatly, that is not a fucking thing, man. There is us versus them all over the world. And so I'm very aware that my perspective is super different, super privileged, super privileged. When I lived in Japan, for example, a lot of people there, my stepmother's Japanese, a lot of people there desperately want to be white. They want to be white. They want to possess the facial structure of a Anglo-Saxon white person. They want their skin to be representative of a light white person. I don't understand why, because I would love a tan, but you know, perspective. And I was respected greatly in Japan. A lot of people wanted to take photos, especially when I had lighter colored hair, etc. And I didn't understand But I think it taught me very early on that people will grow up with different perspectives. So I very much understand why some people might be biased towards gender. I mean, 2010, I climbed the Himalayas. I was chased down the road by a man because I didn't go out walking with another man.
Yep.
So I'm very aware, that there are some countries where being a woman, you just die. You get raped, So I'm lucky, okay? So I guess I'm looking at it from that perspective. And men grew up there thinking that that's normal. They're not going to know it's not normal unless you teach them, or they know, or their horizons are broadened. So all I ask is that people are open to learning, to seeing things from another perspective that is not their own. And that is a hard thing to do because you're asking someone to have the brain capacity that they might not biologically have as well. And that people hate hearing that. People are like, well, my brain's fine. Well, yes, but some people physically don't have the capacity in their brain, whether it's been culturally endowed or however it's been happened throughout your life, or you are literally too young, your brain is not grown enough yet. And that in the esports scene is very common. Men don't fully emotionally mature until 24. Their brains are literally not even fully grown until 24. And the main age of gamers is between 16 and 19. I mean, they still got so many years to grow the part of their brain, the lobe of their brain that can even help them think. So I'm very aware that they're just biologically unable to do so yet. So then I feel bad because I'm like, oh, I'm getting angry at a dude for a thing that he literally can't even biologically do yet. And I'm like, fuck, so I'm very cognizant of that fact as well. But at the same time, I don't know. I think we need better representation from the top down. Like if I had some pro players in the Siege scene turn around and publicly shame, like our biggest one that does it is Bikini Bodhi. He's one of our biggest YouTubers for our game. And he will publicly shame the fuck out of people. Like he goes hard. Like on my video, he went hard. He reached out to me privately. He went hard on social media. He made an example out of it. That's what we need because people will mold their opinions and their morals off idols, of people they look up to. That's human nature. And if we don't pander to the human nature of people at the very foundation, no one's going to learn. No one's going to care that little Jesco down the corner says, oh, please don't rape me. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, yeah, shut up, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, okay, But if Pengu, their favorite gamer in the world, says, if you say things like this, you're scum of the earth to me. And they go, he might not like me if he ever met me. And I would hope that he would really like me. Yeah. Well, okay, maybe then we start to get somewhere. And I know it's such a shitty example, but it is the literal fact when you're talking about people who are not even done developing their brain yet. Like you've got to give them an opportunity to learn. We're animals at the end of the day. I'm not going to pretend like we're fucking gods. We're not deities that know it all. We can only grow and learn. And I'm a great example of that. I used to be a shithead. That thought I knew everything. I'm damn sure of it. At the end of my first degree, I'm damn sure I thought I knew everything. But no, I do not. And I'll never pretend I will either. So yeah.
That was amazing. That was just amazing. Wow, I think you kind of hit the most important nail on the head at this point. So I don't want to go and say anything more now because I don't want to ruin what I just said. Listen to that part, guys. Clip it on Twitch, rewatch it over and over again because that's the good shit. So as we come to sort of the close for this interview, again, thank you so much for making the time for this shit. Is there anything else you want to add? Me. I know we want a somber note here at the end, but even funny things, last words, you got any good shit to say for the peeps?
I know 2020 has been shit, pandemic and all, but out of all of the industries that flourished, it was the fucking gaming scene. And now people are taking us seriously because they realize that we will float even if the rest of the world is drowning. So stuff all those traditional sports people who thought we were just in our office doing shit, right? We weren't. we were doing big things in an almost billion-dollar industry. So believe in what we're building here, no matter what region you're from, underdeveloped or overdeveloped. If you're NA and EU, for example, exactly. I'm thinking about SA here. You know, I've had a recent interview with another SA talent, and he was trying to build things like grassroots up. Like he was heavily like grassroots trying to hit things. And I imagine in 3 years, he is one of the biggest names in Siege for SA. You know what I mean? I foresee that, you know, so it all starts somewhere. And for your region specifically, I'm a very big advocate behind closed doors. You know, you guys didn't get a server in Siege for a long time. I'm very aware that esports industry needs to hit SA up for tier 1. Don't worry. I'm saying things in the background. I'm very aware that your region has worked freaking hard. So hard work pays off. So I will say that to all the Siege fans who happen to listen to this. But yeah, don't give up on this scene just because it's got some bad bunch. I'm still here. And if I'm still here going through all the shit, I must see a little bit of the gem, the diamond that the gaming scene has, and all of the wonderful people I've met. I've met some of the best friends in the world. So keep it up. Be a positive influence in the gaming scene, and you'll meet some of the best people you've probably ever met. Because gaming's what happened today with who was it? 100 Thieves owner. Sex is temporary, but gaming is forever. He now has to get that tattooed on his ass. So that's how I'm going to finish this podcast. Sex is temporary, but gaming, boys, that's forever. So don't forget it.
Oh man, Jess, I want to just tell you a fact here for sure. You have made endless new fans here in South Africa. The fact that you asked for like game servers here, now you the deity. You the god now in SA. Yeah, for sure. But
the SA scene's always been so polite to me, like incredibly nice to me. So I won't forget that. I simply won't forget that. That's a big thing to me. So thank you. And especially you, who's not even part of the Siege scene. You've turned around and be like, yo, this Siege bitch, she's all right. I mean, I don't know. You guys feel like, I'm sure not all of your community is like the greatest, but everyone from the scene I've spoken to has been like top-notch respectful. So shout out to you guys. You guys are like bred differently. Yeah, well done. That's all I have to say.
And that is the first nice thing said about the South African gaming community on the Esports Central Podcast. I'm teasing, but no, genuinely, I will even say, you know, while the guest is here hyping you all up, in terms of like the people involved in the scene, like, you know, the figures, the community figures and stuff, y'all are legit. You know, the actual, you know, gaming guys you find in the server, very similar to fucking the Australia region. We also trash here. Don't forget it, motherfuckers. But you know, the people in the community are great. They're great. So I'm sure they definitely appreciate this message. Once again, from me, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate this. Was, I think, one of my best episodes yet. And thank you all for tuning into this podcast as usual. That's a wrap. Thank you all.